have a little bit of like a little chat for a little hot take, a little couple of hot takes.
Hot take.
She flicks a red hot revelation off the tip of her tongue.
We mentioned earlier about this being like a perfect pop song almost. My first one would be: does this go into a list of the greatest ever pop songs? Speaking melodically, like it's a perfect song. What's negative about it? When I always put it in context of if in 100 years the songs by certain artists are still being listened to, not 100, like 50, let's say, like a Beatles song that's a pop song, like "Love Me Do" or something like that, or something like that. That's just melody, quite simple, but everyone knows the words, whether you like the music or not. Everyone knows that song. Everyone knows the words of other Beatles songs. Oasis ones, "Don't Look Back in Anger," whether you like them or not. Wonderwall, simple, but you know the words. Does this go in there? Do you think as being as good as them? I think yes.
I think so. I think it's definitely right in there. I'm trying to think what else from this kind of era would kind of stand up there with it. And I mean, I'd say maybe "Time for Heroes" or "Don't Look Back into the Sun" by the Libertines, but they're still not as popular. They're a bit more niche than this, I think. I don't think
this
it's
is probably
as universal.
In terms of from then a melodic song that's gone into that kind of that everyone knows. This would probably be the one, unless I'm forgetting about someone around this time that you would sort of know, that everyone would know, that's hit the mainstream in a pop sense. But I like to think this is one that makes it into that. I think it deserves to. It's an incredible ballad, it's incredible lyrics, and it's of a time as well, much like all the other big pop songs. Like, obviously it weren't released, so it weren't like number one, and it weren't round the world number one and all this kind of stuff. But it's, yeah, I just think it should be. If in like 50 years people will know this as like a tune, because it'll still be being played in all the clubs and everything. Obviously, people still crack it out on the jukebox and stuff. So yeah, I'd like to think so, personally. Yeah. The other thought I had was like, is this the best pop song that Dave written?
I'd say it probably is in terms of what you'd expect a traditional pop song to be. Because in terms of actual popularity, which is, it's popular music, isn't it? In terms of popularity, then "Do I Want to Know?" But I see that as rock rather than.
It is rock. It's rock. Well, that rock and roll. It's it is.
In terms of being a pop song, yeah. I say, if someone like One Direction or a pop band or someone came out with it, then yeah.
Well, exactly. It's like, I just thought then one of the other songs that from that time that would rival it as one that people know would be like "Naive" by the Kooks.
Yes,
something.
Yeah.
But
let's see it was your fault.
Well, fun fact with me not knowing lyrics has become a kind of thing on this podcast is that I always used to think he said, "But I'm not from the Raskin," and I used to be like, "What's the Raskin? Why is he in the Raskin?" And then I found out it's not fond of asking; it's just the way he says it.
It gets better. I for about 3 years I thought it was "I know she knows that I'm not from Nebraska." Which is
he's not.
Niche thing for his girlfriend to call him out on.
And enemies of Arctic Monkeys, of course, the Kooks.
Yeah.
Things happen.
They
tried
to manufacture a little thing, didn't they? Gimps.
Which band won? Which band became more successful? Yeah. Don't think the Kooks had the greatest selling debut album of all time, or one of the biggest albums of 2013 in rock and roll. No, I definitely did they? But I think, it shouldn't be like. But now, if I'm thinking about songs that everyone knows when they hear it, it's "Naive" and "Mardy Bum," and that's why it annoys me when people just lump Arctic Monkey. They go like, "Oh yeah, indie," like, ooh, and it's like, well, they're not really. I don't really count them as. They were kind of the best indie band around at that time, but I've never classed them as a traditional indie band by any stretch. Like, because they soon moved away.
Which is weird. It's weird because of all the stuff that does get labelled as indie, Arctic Monkeys are the only ones actually signed to an independent label, which is where the term comes from.
Yeah,
like they're talking about major label bands and stuff. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
They was way different than most of those bands. They were an outlier, like the Strokes were, or something like. Yeah, they had all these different. Well, they stood the test of time and they changed the sound. That's why people who want them to not change the sound they wouldn't be around right now if they were still doing this stuff. They'd just be another one of those shit bands that you go and pay to see at the Ritz for a tenner to hear them crack out the first album and then leave once you've heard the hits. That's all they'd be. So, but they're not. So there you go. Shove that in your pipe and smoke it.
I can't stress enough that the sort of the vibe of the first album, the whole theme of kind of like witty, kind of slice of life writing and lyrics, kind of it was just a passing fad, really. It's not continued, and in the say
No.
in the way other like everything, all these it's like with the whole Manchester scene and Happy Mondays tours, like the late 80s, kind of got massive, and then it took them so long to make their next album, and by the time it came out, like Nirvana had like made it big,
Yeah.
and it just these things pass. It's just all
Yeah.
phases.
Well, they knew that, and the last track that we'll cover of this era will reflect that they knew and understand everything that you've just said, and we're expecting it. And that's
What
why
a way
they've
to
survived.
bookend it.
It is the perfect way to bookend it, yeah. And you will know that eventually. I'm sure you know what it is, but yeah. But yeah, no, I think it might be the best pop song they've written because I can't think of, as I say, like Suck It and See is a great pop song, but unfortunately it's not as famous as this one, or it should be. But I still think this is probably pips it as an actual pop song. So because it's got everything that you like in a pop song, which is young love, young band, raw, beautiful melody. It's got everything that marks the perfect pop song. So and it's sort of the biggest bands' pop songs are usually on their first album as well, aren't they? Because they're usually quite raw. So, or in the early days at least. So yeah, I think so. Best one they've ever done, maybe. Yeah.